Alright, look out for Charlie. I'm gonna try to do this while I'm driving. See if I can get it done. I got a question from someone that didn't quite understand how these V2K operations work. You know, some people are picked out and scripted for Aaron Alexis or James Holmes type operations, and they are usually gun owners. And I'm gonna talk to you and kind of explain how a hypothetical James Holmes situation would go based on what I saw and all the evidence that I've seen from the case. And I've studied it pretty extensively. So first off, James Holmes heard what he thought was Obama's voice coming from the television set. Now, he's not the only person to hear this, Obama's voice. There's been people that have heard it for like 3 hours at a time that have posted on Reddit. And, you know, there's many people that hear V2K and hear celebrities' voices or the president at the time, their voice, or, you know, whatever, because they use these computers and voice cloning technology that they've used since pre 9/11 and on 9/11 to do some of the phone calls. But anyway, so I'm going to give you the hypothetical on how this would go, how they would net James Holmes and how they would get him from point A to point B. So first off, he most likely had very weird things happening and was probably convinced that people were coming in and out of his house. And the reason why I can say that is because not only was his house booby-trapped, so the police said, but if you look at the photos of his house, okay, his apartment, he had baking soda on the floor. And that was to see footprints. He put baking soda around, or baby powder, whatever it was, on the floor, so that if anybody came through the door or came through that area of the apartment, he would be able to see the footprints later. Now, when I had weird shit going on in my house, that's exactly how I determined that nobody was coming into the house and moving shit and doing shit, is because I put baby powder around the doors, around some of the windows, blah, 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 blah. So when I saw that, immediately I thought, bingo. So he thought at one point that people were coming in and out of the house, or at least was trying to determine whether these people were actually coming in and out, or if weird things were just happening in his apartment. Secondly, the V2K, going back to that. Here's how it would hypothetically go. So he's hearing these people talking to him, and it's probably a good cop, bad cop scenario. That's usually the way it works in this scripted shit. So he had one person, or one computer even, berating him, and then another person trying to be his friend and trying to help him out, so to speak. Now, in some of these operations, and I've said this before, when they're scripted to use these people, normally gun owners and normally loners, they sometimes use live people for a short period. If it doesn't look promising and it doesn't look like they're going to work out, they throw them on the chatterbox computer that runs 24/7, and that's what they get. But for a short period, like usually no longer than a month, 2 months tops, what they probably did was they drove him nuts at first and kept him up for nights on end. You know, probably 2 weeks of very little sleep and getting him angry and bringing him up and down and up and down and trying to convince him that they were in and out of his apartment. You know, and when you can't sleep and you have this shit going on, it can really drive a sane person, a very sane and stable person, pretty whacked out. Like, because it's only rational to, when you're hearing somebody talking to you, it's only rational for a sane person to start tearing their house apart looking for the technology that the voice is coming from. Now, with James' case, he decided that at some point that it was a signal coming from the television. These voices have kept him up for weeks, driving him nuts, and then finally the good voice says to him, look, do you know why you came up on the list to do this to you? Do you know why we're watching you? It's because you bought those guns, you bought that mask, or bought that gas mask, or you're on a list now, man. You know, do you want this to stop? Now, they always try to get people to do fucked up shit for it to stop. Now, that's not a sign of mental illness for somebody. Give me a fucking break. The voices are always asking these people to get some, you know, if you want this to stop, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. You know, this is a new phenomenon. So, what they did is they said, hey, if you want this to stop, and then convinced him through, you know, it doesn't stop. People don't understand that. These voices hit these people 24/7. From the moment they are opening their eyes and waking up, it's trying to get you angry or do something to you, to the moment you finally fall asleep. It is going. Some people, they can hear it reverberating right in their melons. And other people, it sounds like somebody hit a baby monitor 20 feet from them. And it's going 24/7. So what they did, most likely, is said, if you want this to stop, you need to load up all that shit you bought. Your guns, your, you know, all the paramilitary shit you bought, your gas mask or whatever. Load it all up, put it in the trunk of your car, and meet our guy. Will you meet our guy, James? Will you meet our guy if you want this to stop? Meet our guy and give him the guns and this and that, and you'll be taken off the list. And this will stop. Meet us at this movie theater at the Batman premiere, blah, 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 blah. Meet us in the back of the parking lot at such and such time, and this will stop. This is what they do to people, man. Like, they have them do fucked up shit. They had one guy, they convinced a guy to go around and start taking the census for them in Canada. Think about that. People are willing to do anything to get this to quit because it is tormenting to them. It fucks sane people up. An insane person would just think it was a fucking demon, you know, even with all the tech sounds and the shit in it, would think it was a demon or think it was an angel or God or whatever. But sane people get fucked up from this, and they're willing to do anything. So he probably loaded that shit up and finally had enough, you know, after booby trapping his apartment, which he told the cops, look, these booby traps are here, and they're set up in my apartment, blah, 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 blah. If he wanted to kill anybody, like a psycho, he wouldn't have told the police that. So he loaded his shit up, and he went to meet these guys so it would end, so they would quit harassing him. And look what happened to him. Nobody saw James Holmes in that theater. Nobody, dude. They saw some dude or dudes in paramilitary gear and masks shooting the place up, and saw more than one person. And then the cops found a drugged up James Holmes sitting in his car after that, who was probably all fucked up from being hit with these ELF waves that can literally blind you. Like, they hit you so hard with this shit that your vision literally gets shitty. Like, in the dark, you can't see anything in front. Like, in the dark, it's just a bunch of like fuzz. It almost looks like static at night. You can barely see at points. It gets so bad. Anyway, they found this drugged up, fucked up guy that hadn't slept probably in 2 weeks in his car, didn't know what the fuck was going on. They busted the window and got him out, and he was totally compliant. Then they made up stories after that he was like threatening people in jail, but then when they showed him in court, he could barely even keep his head up. So it's total bullshit. That is how it would go. They'd play good cop, bad cop with him. Good cop, bad cop. Good cop, bad cop for weeks. And then get him to finally meet him at finally meet them, the people, at that theater where it all went down. And then he was just sitting in the back waiting. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's how this shit goes down. And that's how they get all these different Manchurians to do fucked up shit. Those demons that Nicholas Cruz heard, they were probably telling him that they were his old teachers from a school or a principal that had a problem with him. That's how they do this, dude. So these people need to wake up. And if there's any cops out there, because I really want to do this for a police officer, record your living area for 10 minutes, man, 20 minutes at night, around 11 p.m., midnight. Record for 15 minutes or so, and then send it to me. And I want to show you the audio that is probably running 24/7 for when you're sleeping and your brain gets down to 4 cycles per second. This system is arguing with everybody in their sleep, not just these targets, everybody. When your brain hits 4 cycles per second, this shit is arguing, probably arguing with cops all the time to stress them out, so they're more stressed out on the job, because it works. They do this to families to create tension within the families. People will fall asleep and then they're talking in their sleep all night, arguing with people. Like, it's fucking nuts. And they are doing this. And this is how they do it to these Manchurians. This is how they did it to James Holmes. It's how they do it to everybody. As far as Aaron Alexis goes, I don't think that he decided it was coming from that naval base. I think they had one of the operators that when it wasn't a computer and it was an actual voice with that guy, they had one of the operators accidentally slip up and say that it was coming from the naval base, right? Then the other voice would say, "Oh, why'd you say that to him? Why'd you say that to him?" And it really wasn't, but they wanted him to retaliate. And he did. And he did exactly what they wanted him to do. That's why they're triggering and doing these gun owners like this. They're targeting people that own guns and getting them to do shit like this because it looks like random gun violence. This way they can crack down on guns. They're doing the same thing with mental illness. They're trying to make mental illness seem random. And as though, random, like mental illness can just pop up in anybody, which is total bullshit, because people that are mentally ill, people that develop schizophrenia, are always off. You can tell when somebody has schizophrenia. You can tell at 5. You can tell at 10, at 12, that something's off. But they want to create this new reality, this new normal. Everything is this new normal where someone can just snap. Oh, I just snapped, sorry. And they're even showing it in shows, like in Walking Dead, for example. Everybody at some point just snaps and just starts talking to people that aren't there and having conversations with people that aren't there. And it's total bullshit, and it's just insanity. It is fucking insanity. And people need to wake up and realize that this shit is happening. Because it's not just happening to targets, dude. It's happening to everybody while they sleep. And I mean everybody. Alright, so I just walked into the auto parts store to buy a intake manifold gasket for one of my cars. because I'm swapping out the intake manifold. And and they freaked out on me because I didn't have a mask on. So went out to the car here, found something to put over my mouth. They were trying to tell me it's law in there that I have to wear a mask. Law. This is how stupid people are. And then told me, I said, well, I don't watch the news. And they go, well, you gotta watch the news so you know what's going on. I mean, think about that. I know what's going on, man. I don't need the news. I don't watch the news because I want to know what's going on. All right, I've been hearing from a lot of normally reputable sources that people still seem to think that someone is pointing something at them, like a weapon, like they've got a sound cannon pointed at them, and it's not the truth. And people need to get over that fact. I mean, since 2014, 2015, we have converted a lot of people's thinking in the 21st century in the proper direction. However, there are still a lot of people out there that believe that. And I'm going to prove it to you right now that no one is pointing anything at you. Okay? I was watching a video, had nothing to do with targeting or electronic harassment or anything. I was watching a video about a diver that went missing in Florida. And I ended up finding another video, an older video of him actually diving at these springs, Vortex Springs in Florida. And when I was watching the video, I could hear the signal in the video. And I was like, shit. Because now when I hear it, I'm not so much happy anymore. Although I'm happy that someone else recorded it. It wasn't just me. But that means that I have to go through the video and clean it up to show people that what I'm hearing is there. So anyway, my point is that this guy is well underwater, diving underwater. He's not only underwater, he's in a cave, all right? And they are picking up these signals. Even one of the signals says this guy's a diver, all right? Some of the other stuff, I heard stuff about girlfriends and being single or something. But then I heard this guy's a diver in there, and I'll play that for you later. But let's listen to the original for a minute. Now you get the point. Anyway, my ear is so tuned that I could immediately hear it. It took me at first I'm like, am I hearing it? And then about a minute in, I was like, yeah, it's there. So now I've got to go through and clean it up. So I went through and I spent the day cleaning up this goddamn audio. And this proves this guy is underwater and in a fucking cave. No one's pointing anything at him, yet his camera and his electronic equipment, and they are picking up these voices, and I'm going to play them for you. Okay, here's the cleaned up audio, and you're still going to hear the oxygen tank going off and all that. I couldn't get rid of that to bring these particular voices up because they're more in the high, mid to high frequency range. There's some ELF, but the ELF is really mumbled. Now this is all ELF, electromagnetic ELF, an ELF that is heterodyning and creating an audible signal for humans to hear and especially for cameras to hear and electronic equipment. It gets into everything. So let's listen to this for a minute. Here is this area. Now there is talking, for sure, and it's not them. Let's let it keep playing. There's another good burst, because it does come in bursts. Let's play this part over. Now, let's try a different version of this. Okay, now I'm going to play only the low tones. So let's go through some of those. There's a good one right there. Now that's not sound matrixing. Those are voices, dude. In a cave, underwater. So, no one is pointing anything at you. Now, here it says, guy's a diver. So this part is really fast. Like, this guy's a diver. So you're not going to hear the this. You're just going to hear, guy's a diver. Guy's a diver. Right there. I'll loop it. Now, with this version, I pitched it down a little bit so you could hear it in a different form. So let's loop it. So, this guy's a diver. That's what it says. Here's another one of these short clips of the signal caught. Check this out. Now, check out this clip. It's about 11 seconds long. I'm going to maybe loop a couple of the parts if they stick out. Let's do this. It's constant talking through the whole thing. You think divers are down there constantly talking? No, they're in a cave focusing on what they're doing. They're not talking to each other. They're not talking to each other. This is way down in the mix. You got to pull it out. And it's ELF. Some of the voices, the low of the voice goes down to like 20 hertz or even lower in some cases, and in other parts go up in like the 6,000 hertz range. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. So, nobody is pointing anything at you. It's not happening. This is getting to you in another ways, and maybe somebody has tricked you into thinking that somebody is pointing something at you, but they are not. Okay? This is proof positive. This guy is underwater in a cave. You know, there's not another guy with a wetsuit down there and a sound cannon hiding behind a rock pointing it at him. But I hear this everywhere now. Like, you know, some recordings are normal. A lot of recordings that I watch, you know, I can watch a video about somebody putting together a bicycle wheel, and I can hear this through the whole recording so loud, and I'm like, how did the person that put this video together not hear this while they were putting it together? And I guess they're so used to the noises just being in the recordings that they ignore what it is, you know, or I don't know. It's mind-boggling to me. Or maybe people's ears aren't as sensitive and attuned to it. But that is it. I hope this has shed some light on the reality of the situation. Look out for Charlie.